Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, Carrie here with Unicorn Company, and today we are taking a look at the Inner Sphere Heavy Recon Lance. So, what do you get with this? Well, you get 4 mechs, and you get some Alpha Strike cards and pilot cards. Now, I've mentioned this before, we're no longer going to be really looking at the pilot cards, as they don't add too much for Alpha Strike, which is what the channel primarily focuses on. And we will be looking at the mechs and the Alpha Strike cards. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first of the mechs we're going to look at is the Assassin. Now, the miniature is beautiful, and you can no longer make the mistake of painting the radar and electronics dome as the cockpit. I mean, I'm sure you could if you were really determined, but for the most part, it's pretty clearly delineated now that the cockpit is on the front of the mech. Looking at the back, it's very well detailed with these little tiny, like, winglets to vector the thrust from the jump jets or to protect the front from heat. I'm not sure which, but they are there. And going around the miniature, mold lines are pretty, yeah, they're not really obvious from the front or from the mech's left. Going to the rear, there are clip points on the back of the legs. The details on the back of the left leg at the top are a little less clear than I would like. And there is a mold line that you can see running down the back of it towards the inward edge. And on the right leg, I really don't see that mold line on there. And then, of course, on the mech's right side, I'm not seeing any mold lines. Oh, I take it back. There is one mold line that sticks out to me, and that is on the top of the right arm on the barrel of the weapon. But that looks like it's pretty easy to clean up. Looking at the front of the mech, the details are really nice. And this is all the mechs so far. The details on these have been wonderful. You can clearly see where the weapons are in the torsos. And like I said, that cockpit is clearly delineated for anyone who wants to paint the miniature, which I'm assuming that you do. And feeling it for mold lines or anything, there's a little bit of a burr on the knuckles on its left hand, but otherwise, between that one mold line and the knuckles and then the one on the leg, it is pretty clean. I really like it, and I think they did a wonderful job. Looking at the Alpha Strike card for the Assassin, we have we have one card, double-sided. I was going to say 2 cards, but that's not true. We have a double-sided card. The first side is the ASN 2-3 Assassin at 26 points. This is available from the Clan Invasion period forward. It's a battle mech, size 2, TMM 3, 14 jump for movement, a striker. Short of 1, medium of 2, long of 0, with an asterisk. Overheat of 0, with armor of 2, structure of 3, and indirect fire 0 with an asterisk. Overall, a decent light mech. The 14 jump makes it very maneuverable and can make it very hard to hit, seeing as how you can push yourself up to a TMM of 4 when you're jumping. The other side, we have the ASN 109. This is 33 points. It's an Assassin. I don't know why I said that, but yeah. It's Battle Mech size 2, TMM of 3 with 14 jump again. It's a Scout. And it has damage values of 1 at every range with no overheat value. It is a bit better armored with 4 armor and 2 structure. So you lose 1 structure, but gain 2 armor. and it has Angel ECM, Case 2, Indirect Fire 0 with an asterisk, and Stealth, making this a nice little sneaky boy. And also, yeah, the Case 2 makes it a little bit harder to take down, and I would say, personally, I think I prefer this model from the other one. The next miniature we are looking at is the Merlin. Now, this is something that I didn't expect to see in the Kickstarter, to be fair, but I'm not sad that it's here. The Merlin is a machine that, if I recall correctly, was designed at first during the Succession Wars and made it unique in that way because there were only a few mechs that came out during the Succession Wars, which I believe were either the Axemen or Hatchetmen, I can't remember which one, and the Merlin were two of the big ones. I want to say there was also a variant of the Devastator that came out in the Succession Wars, but the Devastator, I want to say the plans for that had been around since the Star League, and it was essentially a rework of that. So it's in very unique company in that fact that only a few designs were thought up and released during that period. So looking at the Merlin from the front, the details are nice. I do like it. The cockpit, okay, so this is going to sound weird. The cockpit is really complex. It's the cockpit glass is split between 5 panels, it looks like, with a center one and 2 on either side. The weapons are very clearly delineated, and it looks like there's a tiny bit of a mold line right near the foot that might be a little bit hard to clean up, but it's not really deep or anything. It's literally just a hair, and I can barely see it, but it's there. On the next left, everything looks nice and clean. And then on the rear, we have big, beautiful heat sinks, and, well, a heat sink, I guess. And I'm sure that there are some artists who are going to have a field day with that. As far as doing that glowing heat sink effect, I'm not a big fan of it, but I know a few people are. Also, it has 4 leg mounted jump jets, and they are very nicely sculpted in there. They look really good. I do like it. And then getting on to, well, actually, before we do, there is a mold line you can see on the back of the arm on the shoulder pauldron that is less visible from the front than it is the rear, and a scrape with a hobby knife that should be gone. On the mech's right side, once again, it's very clean. I'm not seeing anything that sticks out to me, and I do like all of the detail all over this. This is, when you do a wash on this, it's going to look awesome, especially if you use the technique that I need to talk about one day. But yeah, even the clip points, they're hard to find. There is one on the top of the left leg that I can see. And also, it looks like they tried to hide a mold line by running it along the edge of like a panel line. Barely visible, should be easy to clean up. It's on the back of the right leg on the top. And then getting back around to the front and leaning it forward towards me, you can see both of the shoulders actually have that mold line. Doesn't look hard to clean, and there's a slight one on the top of the right arm gun barrel that I can see. And speaking of the gun barrels, I do like that the weapon housings, the only part of the weapon sticking out is like a short bit of the arm, and then the rest of it is recessed in the housing. So that looks really cool to me. Now, as far as Alpha Strike cards, the Merlin, we have the MLN 1A Merlin. This is from the Succession Wars forward. It's a 31-point card. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM of 1, movement of 8, jump. It's a brawler, short, medium, and long of 2 with 1 overheat. And it's quite robust. It has 6 armor and 5 structure with the special of Indirect Fire 0. The next one we have here is the 1E model, and it goes up by 3 points to 34. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM 1, Movement of 8 jump, sniper, 3 at every range, no overheat value, armor of 6, structure of 5, and it has case 2 and indirect fire 0, and it's available from the Dark Age forward. Now, to be fair, I think I've mentioned Justin over at the Art Painter likes to use the Vulture as his benchmark for what is, I guess, acceptable for a trooper, which is the Vulture Prime, if I remember correctly, which is like 33 points, 333. This right here gives you a good baseline inner sphere mech if you want to have something that is from the inner sphere that does the same thing, and it's a point more, but I believe it's more heavily armored than the Vulture, and the Vulture has an overheat. This doesn't, at least if I remember correctly. I'm going off memory on that. So our next mech, and I think at some point I'm either doing a YouTube video or going to feature this in my podcast, is the one of the Ost series of mechs. This one is the Ostroc. Now, the Ostroc, looking at the miniature, I'm gonna have to say the cockpit, looking at the picture on the card, it looks like the whole assembly there is supposed to be glass, but it's hard to tell from just looking at the miniature. I know Bishop Steiner puts out the mech cockpit recognition guides, and I'm hoping he does these for the Kickstarter mechs because they would be quite useful, especially on some of the mechs like this. The miniature itself, very well detailed. Once again, you have beautiful heat sinks on the back. I believe they're heat sinks, yes. Beautiful heat sinks on the back. And you can do that glowing effect. It'll look really nice. The weapons are all nice and clearly defined. It shares a lot of DNA with the Ost Soul, but it is distinctly different. And of course, much like every Ost mech, all the weapons are in the torsos. So everything's clearly defined. It's done well. There is a mold line running the entire length of the left leg from top to bottom on the front. Not so much on the right. You can see a little bit of it on the top, but it disappears once it gets about to the knee on the mechs, or sorry, on the left. So the right leg has the mold line, the left doesn't. But of course, I'm going from the mech's perspective, not ours, because I used to do automotive shop management, which anyway, it's always from the car's perspective. So this is always from the mech's perspective. Looking at the mech's left arm and left side, everything is really clean. I do like it. And we get to the rear, you can see a little bit of a mold line around the heat sink housing on the arm, which the plastic part that they cast for that includes the arm and the torso section of the guns. And there's a bit of a mold line there, but it's nothing egregious. There's a clip point underneath the top part of the left leg. And then you can see a little bit of a mold line on it as well. On the right leg, there's also, moving it around, I can barely see a mold line and a clip point once again beneath the part that attaches to the hip on the right leg. All of it looks easy to clean. And then getting to the mech's right side, everything looks nice and clean again. No real issues. I do enjoy this and do like this mech. I'm probably going to paint up the Osts as one group. I don't know what. We'll see. Now, looking at the Alpha Stripe card for the Ostroc, we have the OSR2C, which is 34 points. It is available from the Star League forward. So this is available in every era. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM2, movement of 10, skirmisher with short and medium of 3, no long range, overheat of 1 with armor and structure of 5, and no special abilities. The 6R model is available from the Dark Age forward, and it's 41 points. It's a battle mech, size 3, TMM2, movement of 12, with short and medium of 5, long of 2. No overheat, 5 armor, 3 structure, with case 2 and reflective armor. Now, I would definitely take that variant if I had to pick one for a game. If you've never played against reflective armor, it is absolutely insidious, because if you're someone like me who prefers their um, mechs to have energy so they don't blow up, that just is like, oh my goodness. I can't even describe what it's like to deal with tons of reflective armor everywhere, except for just nerve-wracking when all your damage values like are getting cut in half. And then you're like, well, I guess we got to start punching things because definitely ain't gonna shoot them. So the last of our mechs that we are looking at for this Lance pack is the Charger. Yes, the big, beautiful Charger. And I absolutely love this sculpt. The Charger has always been represented with, so the old art, and it's not the miniature's fault. It's much of it is the art's fault. The art for the Charger just didn't feel very, I don't know how to put it. It was good, but it didn't translate well. And this new sculpt of the Charger is just absolute art. So it's in a very dynamic pose, which I do like, especially given its size. And that was one of the other problems with the Charger, as far as miniatures, was its pose was very static and didn't convey any sense of this being a fast mech. This definitely does. There's not as much, I don't see, well, there's two heat sinks on the back, but I don't see a lot of that where you can really get in there and do like the glowing effect on them if that's your thing. Starting from the front of the miniature, there's a mold line on the inside of the mech's left leg, which is easily scrapable and comes off very quickly. I know because I've already done all of it. On the mech's left arm in the armpit, I did have a little tiny clip point. So the ball and socket was where they did the clip point on it. That was easy to get out too. And there was a small mold line or clip point up on the top of the left shoulder of the mech, the torso, not of the shoulder pad. The shoulder pads do have, like, if you feel it, you can feel that the mold line is on the edge of that, but it doesn't stick out. So that's not a problem. Um, Going to the mech's left side, everything looks really good. The rear, you can see a clip point on the back of the left shoulder pauldron. There's also a clip point at the top of each leg on the rear side because the metal plates that cover the legs at the top are part of the leg assembly. They're easy to clean up. And going over to the mech's right, once again, really clean, nothing that sticks out to me and says, oh my goodness, this is a problem. The end of the little tiny pistol that it carries did have a tiny mold line or clip point that I was able to easily remove. And overall, it's beautiful. Once again, the mold line for the arms, a lot of it's contained in the corner of that shoulder pauldron where it's hidden well. One thing I want to point out, the pose, the look, this thing feels like it's like a low poly Halo model, and I'm not hating on it for that. I think it's really cute. Yes, I know I used cute in regards to a mech, and I do like it a lot, but I don't plan on using it for, I don't plan on painting it up as Master Chief. I have other plans for it, and there are devious plans that involve one of the mechs that we'll be talking about here in the Alpha Strike cards. Because the first one we're going to look at is the Charger 1A1. It's 18 points. It's very low cost for an assault mech. It is available from Star League forward, and it is a battle mech size 4, TMM2, movement of 10, scout, with a short of 2, no other damage values, and no overheat. It has armor of 5 and structure of 6 with energy, so at least you're not going to ammo explode from getting torso hits. Now, the other one we're going to talk about here is the one that's terrifying and interesting. This is the Charger C. This is the clan's take on the Charger. This is much like the Hunchback C, which outperforms the 2C in my regard and is also terrifying. This is terrifying, but it has a slight drawback, and we'll get into that. So the drawback on it is that it is 83 points. So this is an expensive investment on the battlefield, but we're going to look at why real quick. So it's a battle mech size 4, has a TMM of 3 with a movement of 16. It's a scout. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So it moves 16 inches, TMM of 3, very hard to hit. It's a scout. Most of your scouts have damage values of 1, 2, maybe. No, this is 660 with no overheat. Yes, this hits about as hard as any other clan assault mech or inner spear assault. No, no, yeah, no. This is on par with like dual PPC Battlemaster. This actually hits harder than a dual PPC Battlemaster. This is like Mad Cat level of hit in Alpha Strike. It has 10 armor and 4 structure. So it also can take a beating. And with the movement of 16 and that TMM of 3, it's going to take a lot of concentrated fire to bring this down. Um, this is like nightmare fuel on the table. It has Angel ECM, Bloodhound, Case, Crit Resistant, and Recon. So, if I recall correctly, Crit Resistant reduces the roll to determine what you hit on a critical hit by 2, and that makes a 4 an ammunition explosion. And it does have Case just in case that does happen, but yeah, so it eliminates the 2 and the 3 as far as damage options and makes it impossible to kill it with a head hit. Or they don't call it a head hit in Alpha Strike, but yeah, it's what it is. So yeah, I mean all of these models are absolutely beautiful and I do love them. Um, Especially that charger. Oh my God. So far out of the box set, I want to say my favorite is the charger. And I wish there were a way for me just to order more of them. Now, of course, I do want to go ahead and mention that if you are looking to get this, right now the only way is through the Kickstarter, but once it is available for retail sales, it will be available at our sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games, at fortressminiaturesandgames.com for $22.49. Retail on this normally is $29.99. So you save a good amount by going through them, and I do highly recommend Fortress, not just because they pay me to say it, but because so far I've had excellent experience with them. Their shipping is always fast and on point, and they have just about anything you would need for BattleTech, Alpha Strike, and a few other games actually. And they even have Terrain by Death Ray Designs and a few other creators. And they also carry, I forgot what they called. I was going to say graphics, but that's not the right word. Decals. They also carry decals and some other stuff. Also, if you want to support the podcast in another way, you can go to our sponsor, the Scrapyard Ork, and they make a variety of custom gaming dice. Well, I say custom, but it's just like I don't know the right word, but they make a variety of gaming dice, which includes stuff that is for BattleTech, from like movement dice to different faction dice. They're not official, but they look really good, and I think you will like them. Finally, you can support us by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/unicorn company. We have tiers from $1 up, and at the $5 tier and up, I just randomly give away stuff to my patrons. And I ended up purchasing a few extra sets of some of these to give away to them, and I plan on giving those away and announcing those to people as we go through these reviews after I've reviewed products. Mind you, the products I will be giving away are not products that I will have opened to review, but they are unopened. So there is that as well. I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to bring you many, many more of these. Until next time, this is Carrie signing off. I'm gonna find my meaning, I can make a change. I wanna play the game. You wanna sink or swim? I'm gonna go